The rain hadn't stopped for hours, and the streets of the city glistened with puddles reflecting neon lights. My umbrella had flipped inside out twice already, but I didn't care. That night, I was too lost in my own storm. It had been 6 months since I lost my younger sister, Emily. She was only 23, a careless driver, one red light. That was all it took to turn my world dark. Since then, I existed more than lived. I went to work, came back, microwaved frozen meals, and stared at the TV without seeing a thing. My apartment felt colder than ever, even in the summer. There was a hollow inside me that refused to fill. That night, as I turned the corner to my street, something soft and barely audible cut through the sound of rain. A meow. Weak, fragile. I stopped. Another meow followed. I looked around and spotted a small shape tucked under a rusted dumpster behind the convenience store. It was a cat, soaking wet, trembling, and barely more than a skeleton. I hesitated. I wasn't a cat person. In fact, I'd never had a pet in my life. But something about her, the way her big, watery eyes locked onto mine, made me freeze. She didn't run. She didn't hiss. She just stared, like she had been waiting for me. Without thinking, I knelt down and extended my hand. She flinched but didn't move away. I took off my coat, gently scooped her up, and held her close to my chest. Her fur was icy, her breathing uneven. I could feel her ribs. She smelled like garbage and rain, but I didn't care. I whispered, "It's okay. You're safe now." I took her home, dried her off with a towel, and placed her on an old blanket. She didn't move much, but she didn't hide either. I gave her some tuna from a can. She ate it slowly, her eyes never leaving mine. I named her Luna because that night her eyes reminded me of the full moon, bright, distant, and a little sad. I didn't know it then, but that tiny stray cat was about to turn my shattered world into something whole again. Luna didn't adjust easily. The first week, she barely moved from the corner of the couch where I'd laid her blanket. She was skittish, flinching at every creak of the floor or sudden noise from outside. She ate in tiny bites, slept with one eye open, and hissed if I got too close. But she never tried to leave. I gave her space. I didn't know much about cats, but I knew what it was like to feel unsafe in your own skin. I figured she'd come around when she was ready. Each morning before work, I left a small dish of food near her. Some mornings it was untouched, others it was licked clean. I never tried to pet her. I just talked to her like she could understand. I don't sleep well either, I'd whisper, but maybe we can figure out together. One rainy Sunday afternoon, I fell asleep on the couch with a book on my chest. When I woke up, Luna was curled beside me, her tiny body pressed against my leg, purring. It was the first time she had touched me on her own. I didn't move. I just lay there, afraid to break whatever fragile trust had been formed. From then on, things changed. Luna started following me from room to room, curling up beside me while I worked, watching me cook like a tiny judge. She began meowing at the door when I returned home, and every night she'd curl up on the pillow beside mine, her soft purr a lullaby in the quiet darkness. What struck me most was her timing. She always seemed to sense when the weight of grief pressed down harder than usual. On Emily's birthday, on the day I received a voicemail from her I couldn't bring myself to delete, on nights when the silence felt unbearable. On those nights, Luna never left my side. She would sit close, placing a paw gently on my arm, or climb onto my chest, staring into my eyes until the tightness in my chest began to ease. It wasn't just emotional support. Luna began pulling me back into the world. I started waking up earlier just to feed her. I vacuumed for the first time in months because she kept sneezing. I opened the curtains for sunlight so she could nap in the warm glow. Slowly, without realizing it, I was doing things I hadn't done since Emily died. I started to care again. One day, I caught myself laughing. Luna had somehow managed to climb onto the top shelf of my kitchen cabinets and was staring down at me like a queen on a throne. It was ridiculous and beautiful. My laughter startled her, and she nearly fell, but she recovered with a flick of her tail, as if she meant to do it all along. That evening, I found an old photo album of Emily and me as kids. I hadn't opened it since the funeral. I flipped through the pages slowly, tears sliding down my face. Luna climbed into my lap and lay there without moving, purring gently the whole time. In those moments, I realized she wasn't just a cat. She was a bridge, connecting the parts of me that had been severed by grief. She never demanded anything. She just existed beside me, with her quiet love and knowing eyes, reminding me that even in brokenness, there could be connection. The apartment didn't feel cold anymore. It felt alive, not because I had filled the emptiness, but because Luna had a year ago I was surviving. Now, I was living again, and Luna was the reason. The transformation wasn't sudden. It happened in quiet moments. In how I started greeting the morning instead of dreading it. In how I noticed the color of the sky again. In how I smiled more without guilt. I began sharing Luna's story online. At first, it was just a few photos on social media. Her curled up in a box, her sleeping belly up like she owned the place, or her judging me from the top of the fridge. But then I wrote a caption once about the night I found her. I mentioned how she helped me through grief, how she made my apartment feel like home again. That post went viral. People began messaging me, strangers from all over the world, telling me how they, too, had been saved by a pet. One woman wrote about how her cat helped her battle cancer. A man shared how a stray kitten pulled him out of addiction. The stories poured in, and I read every one, often with tears in my eyes and Luna curled up beside me. The idea came slowly, but once it formed, I couldn't let it go. I wanted to help more animals like Luna, and maybe more people like me. So, with a bit of saved up money and a lot of determination, I started a small initiative called Luna's Light. Its mission was simple: rescue stray cats, give them medical care, and find them loving homes. I partnered with a local shelter, and we began with just 3 cats. Within months, we had dozens. People connected with our story. Volunteers signed up. Donations came in. Luna, of course, was the face of the project. Her photos now on posters, flyers, even a little paw-shaped logo. Every adoption felt like a small miracle. One couple adopted an elderly cat who reminded them of the pet they'd lost years ago. A teenager adopted a shy black kitten and named her Hope. Families came in sad and left smiling, holding their new companions close. And through it all, Luna watched silently, her wise eyes following me like she knew exactly what was happening. One evening, I sat in the middle of the shelter office, surrounded by paperwork, adoption certificates, and the quiet buzz of a room that had once been a forgotten storage closet. Luna jumped up onto my lap and looked at me the way she had that very first night, steady, calm, and knowing. "I don't know how you found me," I whispered, stroking her fur. "But you did, and you saved me." Luna blinked slowly, a soft purr rumbling in her chest. I thought about Emily then, not with pain, but with warmth. She had loved animals, especially cats. I like to believe that somehow, some way, Luna had carried a piece of her spirit back into my life. That night, I lit a candle by the window and placed a photo of Emily next to it. Luna sat beside it, tail wrapped neatly around her paws, her eyes reflecting the soft flame. Looking at her, I didn't see a stray anymore. I saw family. I saw healing. I saw hope. She had come from the shadows, from an alley soaked in rain and silence. And somehow, she brought light, not just into my apartment, but into my heart. Yes, she was just a cat, but she was also a miracle. She was Luna, the stray who changed my life forever.